Welcome back, everyone. We are here for the 35th episode of MELOW Musings. So this is the 35th episode of MELOW Musings, and we have another speaker who is going to keep us engaged for the next hour or so. This is Shuma Raha, who will be introduced formally in a little while. Now, before we begin, there are some people who've joined us for the first time, and perhaps I should tell them something about MELOW and MELOW Musings. MELOW, or the Society for the Study of the Multi-Ethnic Literatures, was born in 1997, and yesterday it completed 29 years. So we are actually having a celebration of the 29th birthday of MELOW. We began as MELOW India, the Society for the Multi-Ethnic Literatures of India and the US. And at some point we dropped the US and even the India tag, so to speak, because we wanted to go international. We wanted to do world literatures. So world literatures is what we do, and we have been doing it for the last 29 years, and we have miles to go. MELOW Musings started last year in January, because, well, we wanted something other than the conferences that we have once in a year. Every year, we meet over a big conference, over an international conference, and the conference this year is going to be in Chandigarh in November. Preparations are already underway, and our delegates have already started registering for it. So this was going to be in November, and we expect a turnout of about 150 delegates. The paper presenters will be a little less, maybe 100, between 100 and 125. But, Chandigarh is a place where everyone loves to attend sessions like this, events like this, and we expect a large number of our former students, colleagues, and so on. So this is about MELOW India, the beginning, and MELOW. And in addition to conferences, we have other events also going on. We have other activities also going on, which by and by you will discover. Our delegates are already, members are already familiar with it. But for the sake of Shuma, who has joined us for the first time, and some other people out here who have joined for the first time, I just thought I'd give you a recap. With that, we come to today's session. Well, welcome everyone, and we are back here to today's session. The Sea Has the Answers. A title like this reminds me of a lot of things. And in particular, there's a poem of mine, a favorite of mine, which I must tell you about. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And the wheels kick and the wind's song and the white sails shaking and a grey mist on the sea's face and a grey dawn breaking. It goes on. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying and the flung spray and the blown spume and the seagulls crying. This is one of my favorite poems. And today we are talking about the sea. The sea has the answers. What answers does it have? We would like to know. Shuma is here. And I wonder what answers she's got. The speaker of the poem and the writer of this book, The Sea Has the Answers, perhaps got some answers, went to the sea to get some answers. We don't know. We'll hear about it. Right. So this is Shuma Raha. Hi, Shuma. Welcome to this session, the 35th session of MELOW Musings. And your audience comprises, they're still joining in. The audience comprises a lot of our members of our society. And this session is going to be recorded. It will be uploaded on YouTube, and the link is going to be circulated to everyone. And I request you all to share it as widely as possible, because we are doing something that we are proud of. And we are dealing today with a subject that we are all interested in, particularly because of what's been happening lately. We'll talk about that. So we have Shuma Raha here on the 35th episode of MELOW Musings. Let me give you a very brief introduction to our speaker. Shuma is a Delhi-based writer, and she's the author of The Sea Has the Answers, of course. It came out in 2026, just this year. She has also written other works which are critically acclaimed. For instance, in 2019, she brought out The Swap. Again, it was a very bold novel which made waves. A year earlier, she brought out the love song of Maya K and Other Stories. The Swap was longlisted for the Author Awards in 2021. Shuma has also won several awards, including the Juggernaut Short Story Prize in 2017. Earlier, Shuma worked as a journalist in a senior editorial roles at the Telegraph and also at the Times of India. And while pursuing her career as a writer of fiction, she continues to practice journalism and contributes to columns to several publications on issues of gender, politics, and culture. She's also a literary translator as well, and has translated works from Bangla to English, which has been published by Sahitya Academy. Incidentally, it was through the Sahitya Academy that I met Shuma some years ago. We had gone to Mizoram. It was a nice event. It brought in a lot of people from different corners of the country, and I met some people that I'm still in touch with. One of them is Shuma. Right. So we have The Sea Has the Answers, which we are going to talk about now. Before we begin, maybe Shuma would like to say something to our audience, and also give us a brief overview of what the book is about, because I have read it, but the others have not read it. And incidentally, I must tell you, Shuma, that this is a theme that a lot of our students, our delegates, our scholars, and we are doing all these activities for our scholars. Meaning, at this stage of my life and some of the senior people around here, we like to give back what we have earned, what we have gained throughout our careers. And it's very heartening to see all the students. By students, I mean the scholars, research scholars, and young teachers, young assistant professors, and younger people also. So we have the young, we have the senior, we have the veterans, a lot of people listening to you. And of course, when it goes on to YouTube, there'll be many more people. Coming back to the point that I was making, this is a subject that a lot of our research scholars are interested in. And a lot of PhD dissertations, MPhil dissertations are written on feminist themes, including the Me Too movement. And this would give them another angle, another perspective on the subject. All right, now let me ask you if you'd like to say something to them before we begin our conversation. Shuma?
Thank you, Manju. And thank you to the Mellow community for having me here. Very honored to be here. You wanted a brief, just to give you a brief overview of the novel. The Sea Has the Answers is narrated largely from the point of view of a woman whose husband has been outed as a sexual predator in the workplace. So, in that respect, it sort of deals with largely unseen, unheard, and unspoken about aspect of the Me Too movement, which is the wife of the perpetrator, and how her husband's exposure may or may not affect her. So the novel is basically her story. The protagonist is Urmimala Das, a 43-year-old woman, a stay-at-home wife and mother, whose seemingly happy marriage falls apart when her husband is exposed as a sex pest in the workplace. And she realizes that, she cannot continue in this marriage with any degree of authenticity, any degree of sort of dignity. And yet she balks at ending the marriage, because that would be the end of life as she has known it for the last 19 years, which is the number of years that she's been married to Shankar. Her husband's name is Shankar. So the novel basically traces the arc of her emotional journey from this point, where she's utterly devastated. She's complete, emotionally, completely sort of traumatized. From this point, it traces her emotional journey uh, to the point where she embarks on a path of self renewal, self realization, and she begins to seek an identity for herself, which is not defined by her relationship to anyone else. Now, this is the central story of the book, but twined around it, there are some other perspectives and layers, strands, if you will. And one of them is the perspective of the husband, the accused. And parts of the story are actually narrated from his point of view. And so I was interested in delving into the mindset of a man such as this, a powerful man and charismatic man, and how he reacts when he's suddenly stripped of his power because of allegations of sexual harassment against him, and how he views his accusers. What is he like really? Right? And so I try to see the Me Too movement from his point of view, which is obviously not the authentic way in which you should see the movement, but also the internal complaints committee hearing, which against probing the charges against him, the way that plays out. How is society reacting to him as the accused, and how is society reacting to the allegations against him? So that is another strand. The other strand is the subplot. We can go into it later, and that deals with a god man who is presides over an ashram, which is in the seaside town where Urmi goes to kind of heal. And she goes there to get away from the scandal. In the novel is basically set in Calcutta, so she goes there, and the ashram stands next to her house there in the seaside town. And the god man there, he rapes a young girl, a minor girl. And that is another part of the story which plays out, and it actually complements the main story of sexual violence and so on, and we can go into that later. So that is basically the novel, what the novel is all about.
Before we go further into the novel, I'm wondering, you started as a journalist and then at some point you felt that being a creative writer suits you better. Huh? So how do you explain this transformation from journalism to creative writing, this leap?
It was a leap of faith almost. So I spent more than 2 decades as a full-time journalist and editor, and I was writing and reporting on a wide range of subjects, including gender, current affairs, social and cultural issues, and so on, media also. And but I guess I had this desire to be a creative writer always. But it took me a very long time to get the confidence to be one. I started by writing short stories, but I would just write one and spend months polishing it, and then not write another story for a year. So I just didn't have the confidence to even think of myself as a creative writer, because I was used to the world of hard facts, which is journalism. So that took time to. It helped when I won this short story prize, Jagannath Short Story Prize. So that gave me a little bit of confidence, and I quit full time journalism then to focus on my writing career. And that's how the books happened, the short story book and the subsequent novels, including this one. So it was a bit of it was slow and hesitant at first, the whole transition, but now it's happened. So
I always tell you, Shuma, that your books have to be read twice. Once for the story and once for the language. What
thank
I admire about your books is not just the story, the tale that you're telling, but the way you narrate it. And I've seen very few people who have this kind of a command over the language and the vocabulary. And I'm not And I don't feel embarrassed saying that I had to use the dictionary a couple of times when I
I'm not happy about that. No reader should have to use the
no.
dictionary.
No, but then I'm happy that at least I learned a few new words. So I would suggest that if you want to be a good writer, and we have so many young people out here, who are doing creative writing, they've published books, poetry, fiction, and so on. So if you are interested in doing creative writing, you have to be a good reader. You have to read, and only then will you get the language, only then will your register improve as such. So
Absolutely.
I love reading Shuma, and I confess sometimes I have a notepad and a pencil with me to take down the words that seem to be impressive. And then
No,
I look them up. Yeah, yeah,
I do
yeah.
that too. I do.
Yes. Even now, after so many
I
years,
do.
so many years of teaching and reading and whatever, I get a thrill out of the fact that, oh, this is something new. I've learned something new. So anyway, thank you, Shoma. I do enjoy reading your books, and I hope you keep writing many more. I was just wondering, this seaside town that you talk about, did you have any particular place in mind, any particular geography in mind, or is it? I get the feeling that perhaps it's somewhere from your childhood, your growing years. Yeah, tell us about the
Yes.
seaside town
The,
that
the
you have in
seaside
mind.
town is definitely, I don't name the seaside town, but I can
Mhm.
name it here. It's
Yeah,
actually Puri.
Puri,
It's
okay.
a small seaside town in
Yeah.
Odisha, which is very
Mhm.
quite close to Calcutta. And those days when I was
Mhm.
a kid, we used to go there. There was those days we didn't have this style of, going for exotic holidays, foreign holidays, nothing. We would just go to Puri. Twice or thrice a year, one would go to Puri. And a lot of Bengalis would do that. So I have a lot of childhood memories from that place, and obviously the setting. If you read the book, lot of it is from
Mhm.
the memories I have from there. And I actually there's a house that I describe, and I actually knew a house like that. It's a dilapidated house which Urmi, has the protagonist, has inherited, and from her grandfather, and she goes there to escape this scandal which has completely shattered her world in Calcutta. So I actually knew a house like that. It's called Kinjolko.
What does that mean,
Kinjolko, I
Kinj,
explain in the novel.
Kinjalko?
It means
Yeah, it
lotus
is
pollen.
explained.
Yeah,
Lotus?
lotus pollen. It's a Sanskrit
Okay.
word.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
hmm
the pollen of a
Yes,
lotus.
it's a very unusual name for a house. Yeah. So I could sense that there was a lot of you, there was a lot of authenticity in what you described. So, which is
Yeah,
why I asked you
the
this
setting
question.
is yeah,
Yeah.
definitely from my memories. That part.
Now, the theme that you're talking about Me Too, a person who came out in the Me Too era, and you go into his psychology. hmm? It's very interesting, but just a few weeks ago, we had a mellow musing session on perpetrators. The life writing of perpetrators. And we were wondering, why are we talking about perpetrators? Why are we talking about people who do all the wrong things of the world? We don't need to talk about them and glorify them, so to speak. Now, I find that you have also gone into the mind of the perpetrator and tried to understand him, the way his mind works. It must have been very difficult. You must have been walking on a very tightrope.
Yes.
Tightrope because you can't sympathize with him, and at the same time, you have to be objective. So tell us, first of all, how did you chance upon this theme? What made you think of writing a novel? And it has to go as fiction. What made you think of writing this novel on this subject? And why did you think the need to go into the mind of the perpetrator?
So, when the Me Too movement erupted first, it erupted in the West in 2017. I was following it very closely, both as a woman and as a journalist. And
Mhm.
then, of course, it spread like wildfire in India the next
Yeah,
year in
yeah.
2018. And every day there were fresh revelations about powerful men,
Mhm.
high-profile men
Mhm.
and their misdeeds, sexual misconducts, and so on and so
Mhm.
forth. And I was following all of that, and I was, of course, in the media. Um, So at around this time, the wife of one particular perpetrator, a high-profile
Mm,
perpetrator, I won't name him, she
mm,
made a press statement uh,
mhm,
talking about the allegations of one
mhm,
of her husband's accusers.
mhm,
And I don't know whether her assertion was true or not. Basically, she
mhm,
said that this particular accusation was untrue. I don't
mhm,
know the veracity or otherwise of her statement. But
mhm,
that kind of, it struck me then that this whole Me Too conversation that we were having, we were so agitated about, that
mhm,
was leaving out the wife's story completely. We were not
mhm,
talking about the wife at all, or the impact
mhm,
this thing has had on the accused's family and so on. So it
mhm.
struck me then quite powerfully.
Yeah.
And those days I had a column in Business Standard, and I wrote a piece on this aspect of the Me Too movement, that we were not talking about this at all. And at that time, I remember thinking that, someday I might write a short story on this, or maybe a novel on this. And so the idea stayed with me. It
Mhm,
wasn't until several years later that I actually got down to
mhm,
it. So that's how the idea happened. Uh, and as far as the writing about this man's perspective is concerned, the perpetrator's perspective, so I was, when I first started planning the novel, I knew that the basic story had to be, I wanted the basic story to be the story of the wife, and how this, this whole calamity that
mhm,
comes upon her, how it impacts
mhm,
her, and how it changes her and
mhm,
transforms her. And I wanted that to be a story of progression, of a kind of a self-renewing kind of a story. But I didn't want to make it into a unidimensional story either. I wanted different perspectives. I wanted it to be, I mean, it was my attempt. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah, yeah.
but so that's when I thought that why don't I bring in the man's perspective, which will be a
Mhm,
completely different perspective.
mhm,
The accused perspective is one, the
mhm,
wife's perspective is one, and I wanted the man's perspective to enter into the picture, into the domain. And
mhm,
I thought that was interesting. Perhaps it was interesting to me. And I put myself in the shoes of this man, so to speak. And, I tried to think. It was tough because, as you said very rightly, that it was a quite a fine balance. I didn't want to appear to be sympathetic to him, and I wasn't, of course.
mhm,
And yet, I didn't want to paint him as a complete villain. He is. I mean, he's full of.
mhm.
As when you
Yeah.
read his thoughts, you know that he
Mhm.
is inherently misogynistic.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
full of entitlement. He's full of a sense of victimhood. He thinks that he's been, unfairly targeted. Why are
Mhm,
these women ganging up against me, and so on and so forth? And he has a god complex completely. He thinks that,
mhm.
whether
Yeah.
all his wife, mistress, everybody exists to sort of,
Mhm,
cozy up to him and pleasure him. So
mhm,
I just attempted that, and
mhm.
now it is for the reader to say whether I have succeeded or not. Uh,
I think it was your training as a journalist that helped you see the other side of the coin, the flip side of the coin. Because you see, generally, journalists, I don't know too much about your profession, your journalism, but they are supposed to be very fair and they're supposed to stick to facts and be objective. So I think probably that training helped you
Probably,
while you were writing this book,
probably.
because I know when you write a book, sometimes you are so impassioned that your characters turn out to be caricatures, and well, you went out a lot of things that are inside your heart, huh? But then maturity is when you see the other side of the picture and you try and reason out, why is this person behaving in this manner. So that is what I feel made you, gave you that insight into different characters. Yeah. Now, do you think the Me Too movement has changed over the years? Are people still talking about it? Has it fizzled out? Has it impacted life in any way?
So I think the virality of this hashtag Me Too thing, that has fizzled out. Okay, when we are not really, I mean,
Mm,
the way it was in 2017,
mm,
18, 19, that virality thing may have fizzled out, but the trigger for the Me Too movement, which is
mm,
sexual harassment in the workplace, sexual assault, molestation in the workplace, those triggers are still there. I mean, they're happening all around us.
Mhm.
We were talking,
Mhm.
a little before the session started, that even now you see this long shadow of the Me Too movement, the Tarun
Mhm.
Dejpal case playing out. I mean, he has just been
Mhm.
convicted of rape
Mhm.
by Bombay. That was a
Yeah, yeah.
sexual assault case in the workplace. He's just been
Mhm.
convicted by Bombay
Mhm.
High Court. There is the Bridge Bhushan Sharan
Mhm. Mhm.
case,
Mhm.
the former chief of
Mhm.
the Wrestling Federation of India.
Yes, yes, I know.
Yeah, so all this, and then suddenly, I think 2 days back, there's this website called News
Laundry.
Laundry.
Okay.
There are a host of allegations now suddenly cropped up on social media against the way News Laundry functions, against some of the people who are in powerful
Tell us
positions.
more about this news laundry.
So News Laundry is a website. It is basically a media watch website. It started
Mhm.
out as that, but now it does all sorts of stories. It's
Mhm.
a digital platform, news
Mhm.
platform, and so this just happened yesterday. In fact,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, and a lot of the former employees are now alleging that certain people in News Laundry were guilty of
Mhm.
sexual harassment, that they don't have systems in place, as
Yeah.
mandated by the Vishaka guidelines. They don't have the ICCs in place, the internal complaints committees in place, etc. So, it's an ongoing, the Me Too,
Mhm.
hashtag Me Too thing may be a thing of the past, but the whole subject of sexual harassment in the workplace exists, and it
It
continues to
does.
affect
It does.
generations,
It
I mean,
does.
all women of
Mhm.
all ages, really.
And I must tell you, Shuma, I don't know if we have, if I've mentioned it in our conversations earlier. After we met in Mizoram, you went back, you went your way, and I went back my way, and I'd almost forgotten until I saw you on television. And
Oh,
you were, yes,
yes.
we won't take any names, but there was somebody very high profile who
Yeah.
was, who had been exposed. And you were questioned about it because, as a journalist, you had some interaction with him. And very calmly, with a lot of dignity, with a lot of poise, you said, yes, I was also propositioned. And, well,
Yeah, nothing happened, but it
uh,
was a potentially abusive situation. Nothing
mhm,
happened. There was
mhm,
no actual abuse or actual assault or molestation or anything. But these are the circumstances that can progress into something. Now, I
mhm.
walked away. There was a job offer, and it was an interview situation. I realized what I would be getting into if I were to take this job, and I walked away from it. So nothing further happened to me, but it was a
Yes, I know.
potential
It happens all
opportunity
the
cost
time. Huh?
for me. I mean, had I taken that job, maybe my life would have been different. I would have come to Delhi earlier. Maybe I would have done better. I don't know. But it was an opportunity cost. I walked away. I was scared. So I just walked away.
Yes. We hear a lot of our young scholars, the women scholars, they're very vulnerable and we worry about them a lot because sometimes you don't even realize when you are being exploited and you
Yes.
don't even realize that there are dangers ahead, that there are wolves in a human guise
Yes.
waiting around the corner. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm. Were there any particular scenes in this book which were difficult to write, Shuma?
No, I don't think so. I think I struggled most with the parts to do with Shankar, who's the perpetrator, and
Mhm.
his interaction with the probe committee, where he denies all the charges strenuously, and there is this exchange going on, because I wanted to show the progression. How he, because the book doesn't say that he's rehabilitated, but those pointers are there, that how
Yeah.
society slowly slowly co-opts him again. First they ostracize him almost. They don't want to have anything. People don't, normal people, I mean, not just his office. He's suspended from
Mhm.
his work. He has to step
Mhm.
down as CEO. He's kicked out of the
Mhm.
board, and all of that happens. But and people also shun him. But I wanted to because I've seen that happening, that many perpetrators slowly
Mhm.
slowly, very surreptitiously, smoothly, they
Yeah.
get rehabilitated. So so those were the trickiest parts to write. So I wanted it to seem real, and and not make it too, as you said, caricaturish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm, mhm. Uh, why don't you tell us about the subplot? You know, the God man.
Yeah.
And just yesterday or day before, there was something about Ram Rahim also in the
Mhm.
newspapers, and we know what a sordid story is connected with him.
Mhm.
So why don't you tell us about this God man and the young girl who was
Yeah.
assaulted by him? Yeah.
So, as I said, Urmi escapes to this dilapidated house by the sea, which she has inherited from her grandfather. I mean, she's has some money. She has this little house, so she's not completely, helpless in that sense. She's in a better situation than many other women in her
Mhm,
situation who's contemplating walking out of the marriage. But in any case, she goes there, and there is an ashram which has come up next to her house, which is presided over by a godman. He has accumulated a lot of powerful followers, a huge number of followers, and many of them are very, very powerful. The police, the state, even the chief minister is a disciple, and so on and so forth. And then there is this young girl, who is the sister of the domestic help who works for Urmi, and she is raped by the godman.
below the poverty line, not powerful, huh?
Exactly.
Comes from
So
the underprivileged, yeah.
yes, underprivileged. And so here, the I try to draw that, the in that sense, a parallel between what is happening in a posh office
Mhm.
in a big city.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm trying to show the ubiquity of sexual violence, that it may happen in a
Mm,
posh office in a metropolis, or it may happen in the hinterland, it may happen in a so-called holy place like an
mm.
ashram. And we see it happening all the time,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
we
this
do.
godman thing is so sort of
Mm,
common in our society, so many
mm,
instances. So I wanted to show that this
mm,
was endemic, this was present in every strata of our society.
mhm.
And the
Yeah.
other point I wanted to sort of suggest was that who is heard, you know, these people who were assaulted by Shankar, or proposition by him,
Mhm,
when they come out and call him out, they are heard because they
mm,
are educated, they are empowered, they have the voice. But when this young girl, who's a minor girl, when she and her family, they go to file an FIR, even the FIR is not taken.
mm,
So she's not even heard. So
mm.
that part also I wanted to emphasize. Then, of course, things happen, and you know, the law does begin to move against the God man.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is what I wanted to show, that how patriarchy abuses its power,
Yes.
has power, and how it abuses its power, and it uses its power to deceive, to betray, and to sexually exploit women. So basically, that is the function of the subplot
At
in the
this
novel.
point, at this point, I'm very tempted to tell you about an incident that had had some impact on me, and it disturbed me for a long time. There was this very powerful politician who used to have a massage woman coming in, masseur. So she used to massage him, and poor woman, she used to work in different homes, and she used to give him a malish. And one day he just assaulted her, he raped her, and it was so bad that there was blood everywhere, and that politician's wife took the girl, took the woman to the hospital, and she was made to say, "Don't tell them what happened." So she said, "I fell off my cycle. I fell off my cycle and I got hurt." Hmm? So that is what she said. But the newspapers got wind of it, and there was a big hue and cry. But what happened was that woman, the one who was molested, she lost all her jobs. She was starving. Her family had nothing to eat because people didn't want to hire somebody who was, who was in the newspapers for the wrong reasons. So she literally had to beg for mercy. She had to apologize so that she could fend for her family again. It happens all the time. And this story I had made use of in the book that I brought out last year, Sanjigiri, The Legend of Sanjigiri. So it stayed with me for about 20 years. Huh? This happened about 20 years ago. It stayed with me, and it was at the back of my mind, troubling me. So then I put it somehow into my novel, which came out last year and which I've recently put on Kindle. But we are here to talk about your book and not about mine. What I wanted to say was that we know such cases happen, such things happen, and it is not fair, which is a very mild way of putting it. It is very, very unfair. It is patriarchal, yes, and women do remain exploited. There are times when they take advantage of the situation, they may be manipulative, but in most cases, the people who suffer, the women who suffer, are those who don't have the power or the money. So I was asking, were there any difficult scenes to write? Because you are very graphic and you do show a lot of interaction between the characters.
Yeah. No, as I said, it's really the parts to do with the accused and how those were the most difficult to write because I'm not a man, and here
Mhm,
I feel it's much easier for me to write about a woman and
mhm,
her feelings. I can, it's very natural for me
mhm, mhm,
those things, but I'm not a man, and I'm
mhm,
certainly not a sexual molester, so so it was very tough for me to write those scenes, and his get into his mindset, because I was not only trying to get into his mindset to delve into the character of such a man. I was also, the other thing I was trying to do is to raise some questions about some of the gray areas around the Me Too movement, some of the gray areas around consent. Now, the flawed and culpable as Shankar is, he is railing. I mean, he is just so upset and angry about everything that is happening. He does raise some points about these gray areas. For example, he says, and one can dispute this, but he says that are we now in an environment where, especially in the woke, liberal, big city milieu, where to make a charge such as this is to virtually prove it, that you, under no circumstances can you disbelieve the woman. So he raises that point. The other point he raises is that if a woman has had a sexual liaison with a man in her workplace, especially a man with whom she's in a reporting relationship, she reports to him, and she's had this relationship for a length of time. Now, should her consent necessarily be treated as having been given under duress? As you said, sometimes women don't even realize that they've been exploited. Okay, but there may be instances when they may have given the consent perfectly willingly and later decided that, okay, no,
yeah.
so those are the things I wanted to flag also through Shankar's thoughts. Um, you can, obviously you do not, he is also self-deluded. He refuses to believe that he has committed any wrong.
Mhm,
Uh, so, but I wanted to flag these issues also through him.
mhm, mhm. How you have had a number of interviews, book launches, and so on. How has the book been received? I know I saw some very good reviews, but by and large, are you happy with the reception? Do you think
Yeah,
it's made a difference?
by and large, I'm happy. The reviews have mostly been very good. I haven't had a lot of events. I've just had an event in Calcutta and with you, and another online event. That's it. And there was one coming up in Delhi, not yet. But the Calcutta event was very successful. And what I was very heartened about was, there was so much of audience participation. There was a
Mhm,
lot of interest in the subject, and a lot of people uh, put questions, and you could see that they were involved in the subject, so that made me very happy. So that there was response. I mean, people weren't indifferent
mhm.
to the
Well, I
subject.
hope at the end of our discussion, we have some discussion with the people who are logged in, because I'm sure everybody has something to say about the subject. Tell me, what are you writing now? What are you working on? Or is it too early to think of the next book?
I want to get this all this promotion business out of the way, then I'll sit down. I've written one or two short stories. Yeah, so it's I haven't really got down to writing anything, a bigger project. um, so
If you had
still
to describe this book, if you had to describe this book in just a few sentences, how would you do that?
I would say it's a feminist novel, but a feminist novel that avoids stereotypical or
Mhm.
monolithic notions of feminism. And it's also a deeply political novel because it goes into themes, contemporary, some very disturbing contemporary realities that we see around us today. The complicity of or not complicity, but the nexus between religious authorities and political power. Then we see the fueling of hate against minorities, the murderous hostility against interfaith relationships, all of that, and of course sexual violence and misogyny, of course. So I would say that it's a feminist novel and also a deeply political novel.
There were times when I was really scared reading your book because I would wonder what's going to happen next, what's going to happen to this character. And then I would think, let me not read it now. I'd put it aside. So that's the kind of feeling I had when I read your book. I didn't want any harm to come to the characters. And I'm so glad towards the end, nothing major happened as such to the characters. You just kind of left it hanging. I
Yeah,
think an open-ended novel is one that makes a person think, makes the reader think what happened next and so on, right?
yeah.
Now, Shuma, talking about the geography of the place,
Hmm.
I'm reminded again of a poet who says that you choose the landscape that you want to live in. There are different temperaments, there are different human beings who
Yes.
choose the place that is best suited to them.
Yeah.
And for instance, those who are like hermits, like monks, might choose to go to the mountains and live a life
Hmm.
of an ascetic. And then there are those who are worldly, intendant Caesars, as Auden calls them. They like to live in the plains because everything is, manageable and you can build roads, build buildings, and your worldly desires can be fulfilled. But then there are the others who go to the sea, and the sea seems to call them. The sea seems to whisper, "Come on, you can drown your sorrows in me." So
Yeah.
Auden says it's generally the suicidal types who head for the sea. I don't agree. What do you say?
I'm very fond of the seaside. I love the sea. I haven't displayed any suicidal tendencies as yet, but you never know. But yeah, the sea does call to me. I just love the sea, and I feel that the title of the novel, when it kind of came to me, I was wondering what should be the title. When it
Mhm,
came to me, I felt that it was a nice title, but then I was thinking about it, that is it appropriate or not? And
mhm.
then I realized that the sea is really for me, it's a symbol of eternity. It is where life began
Yeah.
in this world, and it is where the rivers come and empty themselves. So it
Mhm,
is all about the beginning and the end, and there is this eternal rhythm of the sea, the waves that come eternally
mhm,
again and again and again. And I felt that if there is an it is for me, it's nature and eternity. So I
mhm.
felt that maybe the title was apposite, as it were. And
Very nice, really nice, huh? The sea has the answers, and you wonder what answers does it have? Oh, it's like somebody else may have that same pull towards the mountains, huh? The mountains call,
yeah.
and it could be the forests, whatever. So it's basically it's nature that seems to have the answers that you are looking for.
It's like another way of saying the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
Blowing in the
Here
wind,
it's
blowing
it's
in,
probably roiling in the water.
rolling in
So
the waters with the waves. Huh? Yeah, wonderful. Right. Now, before we open it up to the audience, is there anything else you would like to add about your book, Shuma? And meanwhile, those who are logged in, please be ready to switch on your videos and come onto the screen to take part in some discussion. It's always very nice, to shoot questions at the author. Yeah,
yeah, I think I'll take the questions. That's nicer than
right,
me
right.
going on talking about the book.
Okay, we have Renuka Dhyani out here. Renuka, more light on your face, please. And yeah, she is also a budding writer. Am I right? Renuka, unmute, please. Unmute, my dear. unmute, unmute, unmute.
I think now it's my
Yes,
voice is
yes,
audible.
yes, yes.
Yes.
A
And
little more light on your face, huh?
ma'am, I think I'll have to switch on the other one.
It's okay, we can see you.
Yes, the others? The others who would like to take part in the
Yes, ma'am.
discussion.
I
There's
hope
Renuka.
now it's
Yes,
fine.
Renuka. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Renuka.
And
first
we
of
have,
all, thank you to both of you for bringing in such a topic which is relevant for all the times. And um, I think you have touched upon it, ma'am, Shuma, ma'am. There are certain, I would like to bring in my question. There are certain professions where the interaction, the open minded, and you can say the broad minded interaction between the male and the female are taken for granted. My husband is also a journalist. So, journalism also is taken to be such a profession where the women who join, they are considered to be considered to be bold. So maybe the male, they take some advantage of that. So, my question is, what do you have to say about the time the victim takes to realize that she is actually the victim? And also, even after she has taken some privileges out of that interaction. So, what are you?
Yes. Yes, very important and good question. First of all, I would like to say that it's not just in journalism that women are taken advantage of. There, yeah, I mean, it happens in every profession, believe me. Journalism, yes, maybe there are so many women there, perhaps, but everywhere. It happens in the police, it happens in the bureaucracy, everywhere. What you mentioned that after taking advantage of that situation, so then it's rather immoral, in my view, in my personal view, is that if you have taken advantage of your proximity with your boss, or you have allowed that proximity to happen and to develop, and then you have profited from it, you've benefited from it, and then if you sort of turn around a couple of years later and say that, oh, it was rape, oh, it was assault, I guess that's not quite,
Yes.
it's dishonest. So though that question I do try to raise in the book, because Shankar faces a rape charge as well. He has there are 8 women come out against him, and they make these charges, and one of them is a person who actually accuses him of rape, and he denies that charge vigorously, and he says that this was a consensual affair. This girl threw herself at me. She's a young girl, very young girl, threw herself at me, and she did this and she did that, and his language is misogynistic language, no doubt. And he says that, oh, I just took what she was offering, completely out of line language, you know. uh, he does that, but I tried to raise that issue, that, what happens in such a situation? Can we actually say that this was? So these are cases, like she mentioned, that these are cases that bear more close examination. Um, because if you've profited from a relationship, then it's not right to say that, it was rape, it was assault.
One more question, ma'am. Because, like ma'am was talking about Ram Rahim, he has slain the journalist, if you know, Chhatrapati,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And his daughter, she's teaching with us. So
Oh,
when yeah, so when a person who supports the Me Too victim, though it brings upheaval into the lives of the people who are close to the perpetrator, but how if, does it suggest that the people who support Me Too victims, they should uh, back out?
no, sorry, I didn't get your question. if
Uh,
if you support a Me Too victim, why should you back out? I mean,
uh, like the incidents like such as these, do they discourage the like there have been like you were talking about the ICC committees, right?
yeah.
Internal court. So there also, I think there is no fairness in them
Hmm,
because yeah,
absolutely. Mm.
yeah. So
Absolutely. I mean, those probes are also,
yes,
I mean, sometimes really compromised.
compromised. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have good laws. The
Mm.
laws are enlightened laws, but society has a way of kind of subsuming
circumventing them. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
So, uh,
mm,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you. Thanks for your
mm.
question.
We have Anita Sharma out here. Anita, you have something to say? Unmute, please. Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am, and it's wonderful to be here on this platform. Shuma, ma'am, you did wonders. I think the way you narrated whole the thing with ma'am, the way you were conversing, that was quite poetic. So I was wondering how you had taken such a, difficult, subject like sexual violence or misogyny, because I don't find from the conversation, the way you spoke the words, they were so poetic, so quiet, and so, mature in the way. But I'll begin with one in a story. I would like to share a story here. We in our neighborhood there was a girl, hardly about maybe 15 or 16-year-old girl, and she was a maid servant to one of the family. And once she went during the Diwali, it happened, before COVID. During the Diwali, she went home to Nalagarh, and there she got down from the bus, and one of her uncle, that uncle was known to him because he was running a shop over there at the bus stop. He took her to the village because that was around, quite late the winter, time in Diwali. And on the way, he actually harassed that, girl sexually. And she was too young to understand what actually, had, happened. He just said, okay, we'll have some, good time and so. And he gave her food and everything and all. She was a fatherless girl, and her mother was, half into drugs, you could say, always with, filled with what tobacco and all she was having. So this girl, she came back. After that, she was having pain. And that, my friend, she's in my neighborhood only. She said, but this girl had, come from her home, and she's always, telling me there is a paining, I'm paining, I'm paining. I don't know what had, happened to her. And she's not, sharing things with me at all. So I called her one day because she was good with me. And I used to, try to teach her sometimes because she had just passed the fourth or fifth standard. So I called her, and Suman was her name. So I said, Suman, beta बहुत दिन से तुम आए नहीं. Let's do something. कुछ पढ़ा तुमने? And then she started, crying. She said, something happened to me, but I don't understand what happened to me. I said, what? My uncle said we'll have good time, but that wasn't a good time. At that time, I didn't feel anything. I was just numb. But now I feel it was something bad. Means she wasn't actually able to understand that it was a violation of her inner body, or it was a sexual, violence, rather would say. So I called her inside my home. I took her to my bedroom. Then I asked her, so what happened? And she, detailed everything to me. Then I talked to my, friend, and we literally, had a police complaint over here, a zero kind of police complaint. But again,
Zero
you
fire.
see, the policeman called his mother, sorry, her mother, and that mother came and she said, नहीं नहीं मैडम जी, आप मेरी लड़की को कहाँ फंसा रहे हो? ऐसा कुछ नहीं है जी, हमारे तो वो बड़े पुराने हैं, सारा राशन उनकी दुकान से आता है. That was the answer of the mother. And both of us, we were helpless. Still, that lady is working here in our, neighborhood. She's here. My friend and both of us, we helped her, to get married also. She's having now two kids. But we are the one who are actually, trying to take her out of, that commotion which had, taken place at the age of 15 or 16 years of age. But I think in such situations, we find the administration or the police administration, they are not very comfortable. They don't take things, very seriously, especially as you were also
Yeah.
talking of the poor inner women.
Mm.
So, but when I think about your book, I had two, things in my mind. There are many stories like this all around us. We have to just peep, deeper. Uh, I think what I get, because I haven't read the book, but what I get is that you want to say that nature is a healer, or nature is the one who share your pain with you, that kind of thing. And the very interesting thing is because you have taken C, and you were talking about it's a symbol of eternity, and the beginning and the end is there. So you are taking it as a mirror of the pain. But we in the hills, we always say, let's be, because as I was, counseling that girl, I was telling her, be like a mountain. You're a mountain girl. You have to be strong. So you have to, nothing is permanent in, I used to tell her, nothing is permanent in this, life, you will heal one day and something like that. Now she's quite comfortable in her life. So I just wanted to, understand from your, this creation, which I'm going to read very soon, no
I
doubt,
hope so. I hope you.
that if you see the mountains and the sea, how would you, take both these if you had to, take these two, universal aspects like the mountainous, feelings, and the what do you say, the deepest, sea, the emotions, which are like, we always say emotions are as deep as sea,
Mhm.
but strength is always like a mountain. I
Mhm.
mean, these makes you as a writer more as a therapist, in my opinion. And that's a good thing, when you read such things, as ma'am was also saying, I never found something bad is happening till the towards. Even I like, such novels where everything ends well towards the end. There might be climaxes in in the novel, but at least end should be good. So I think I wanted to know about which is more noise, where you find more noise, like in sea or in mountain, or whole the nature do you think is a therapy?
No, of course, what you say is right. Nature is therapeutic. I mean, when I spend time in my roof garden, that is therapeutic. I find it very restorative to tend to my plants. So, yes, nature definitely is therapeutic. But when I talk about the sea here, the sea has the answers, or that is, I don't really mean it that way, that, the sea is the healer or whatever, because you
Okay.
have to find your healing within yourself. You have to find your answers. And that's why I say that, I mean, it's really a kind of a it's a kind of a conceit, if you will, that it's not that you're going to actually get the answers from the sea, or actually going to get the answers from the mountains, but it's, you have to find your answer. May not be the same as my answer. What I think is correct may not be, you may not share that view. That your sense of an answer to a problem that you may be facing may be very different from the way I would have face that particular problem. So as far as seas and mountains, I mean, these are such they are such beauties of nature. Now, obviously, I mean, when you go to the mountains, the serenity there. When you go to the sea, the that too. I don't think a sea is very serene in that sense, but I feel a lot of sort of calm when I visit the seaside. I just like it. I mean, personally, I love the sea. So, which is what I was telling Manju. Uh, so in this particular instance, in this particular novel, it's not that the sea heals her. She finds the healing, the protagonist finds the healing within herself, because she finds the answers, or I won't call it answers, but she begins on that path of renewing herself, you know. So that is not exactly from the sea, but the sea has been a witness to her every stage of her life, because she used to come to the seaside as a child, as a girl, as a woman, as a mother, wife, mother, everything. So for her, the sea is like a witness to her life. And now she's come back to it seeking another identity for herself, an identity which is beyond her identity as a wife and mother. So that's how I looked at it.
The tidal symphony, I know that kind of thing you would say. Let the
Thank you,
tides come and
Anita,
thank you
and
so
thank you,
much.
Shuma. Thank you,
Thank you, ma'am.
Shuma. Thank you, Anita. So the sea does become a character in the novel, so to speak. Yeah, and
And the house too, actually, the house too.
mhm.
um, I,
Yes,
I I look at it as a symbol of Urmi's regeneration, because she
mhm.
undertakes the project to renovate the
Yeah.
house is falling into disrepair, and she starts renovating. So that, in a sense, that is a symbol of her progression,
Okay.
her
One
transformation.
last observation from Indrani before we wind up. Yes, Indrani.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good
This
evening.
is Indrani Bandopadhyay. I'm also from West Bengal, ma'am. So it is a really a pleasure to listen to you. And
Thank
it reminds me about my school days. I'm from Pathabhavon. So there I was Sahitya Sampadika. So I used
you.
to write also, and I used to have my so many followers who are fond of my writing. Then the life happened, then the PhD research. So I do write, but never publish much. So yes, ma'am, it was inspiring. So, being a literature student, I feel like there is a concept called androgynous mind. Virginia Woolf mentioned about that. So, proper balance between man and woman's psyche. So
Oh.
far, I was giving the example in the class about Shakespeare because that's what she referred to. So
Mm.
now I will be referring you also as well, because in the contemporary time, the way you said, although I have not studied the novel, definitely I would love to go through it, ma'am. But the way you have balanced it and definitely you might have a proper androgynous mind. And secondly, ma'am, I was once again, while taking feminism class, I could not give any textual reference of Me Too movement. I used to refer to the blogs, the posts,
Yeah,
certain things.
yeah, yeah.
But now, now,
Mm,
time and again, I can refer to your text. So
Thank you. It'll be
definitely, ma'am,
wonderful.
mm.
thank you for writing and contributing a lot in the English literature.
Thank
Another
you.
thing, I have a question for you, ma'am, is that we know that you have mentioned about Puri, and definitely for Bengali, Puri is our second home. We love to be there, ma'am. But if you think about your novel, it is written in English. You have written in English, and English is a language. Definitely, it can include a vast variety of readers. So, how far you wanted to be your novel a regional novel? So, whether this novel will be applicable for Indian English novel, or it is applicable for everyone who are, because there is no single feminism. It's feminisms, because the condition of woman differs from class, caste, and region. The condition of black females are not like the what we're going through in India or any northeastern part of India. So, how far you wanted to make your novel a regional novel, or else you just let it be a C universal symbol?
No, definitely universal. I think that is the aim of every author, an ambition of every author, and I definitely want my novel to be, reach out to a universal audience, because the themes are such that they extend. They do not. They are not
Yeah.
limited to Calcutta
Mm.
or India or Eastern region or Western region. These themes are playing out all the time, everywhere, all over the world. Sexual violence, sexual harassment in the workplace is something which is playing out everywhere all the time. So yes, I mean, I
Mm.
definitely, I mean, it may be ambitious of me to
Mhm.
think like that, but I definitely
Mm.
think it has a quality of universality. Definitely it is set in Calcutta, it is set partly in a seaside town which is close to Calcutta, so it is but I don't think the novel is constrained by its geography.
But maybe Indrani can think of translating it into Bangla at
Oh,
some
that
point.
I'd love
Huh?
it. I hope
Yeah,
you
that will be
will.
very nice.
Please read
Yeah,
it and
yeah,
let
yeah,
me know. We
yeah,
should connect.
yeah. And Purva has logged in. Purva, you have switched on your video. You want to say something? But make
Ma'am,
it very short because we need to wind up, huh?
yes, yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Shuma, ma'am. It was such a wonderful rendition, and Indrani has covered one of the points which I would like to accentuate, that it is the novel which is actually covering very contemporary form, that is Me Too. And of very lately, I was fascinated and intrigued to work towards something known as cyber feminism and digital feminism. And when I have seen the pretext of you covering this aspect, particularly from the side of perpetrator, it was such fascinating. I don't have any question, just one thing, that somewhere I feel, I've been discussing it with my students, that somewhere this digital space has become a space of ambivalence in terms of resistance, that on one side many women get the agency and a voice to voice out their notions, their opinions, their archives, but at the same time we see it's women only who is losing, it's womanhood. So there is a space, this digital space is also vandalizing, and one can say that it has turning into a network's site of isolation, that at the end Urmi has to turn to sea, to as, as a site of escape, or one can say
Hmm.
that sea becomes the ultimate agency for Kurmi. So somewhere I always wonder myself with the topic, that how these digital spaces, which are no longer microcosmic spaces, have
Hmm.
become spaces of paradoxes.
Hmm.
And yes, that is a very interesting intake that you have covered, and it has left us with all the more questions and remarks and insights. Thank you. So it's very contemporary text which covers about Me Too, and I'm very glad that it has somewhere, as Rani ma'am said, has contributed to the canon in its own way. So thank
Thank
you,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manju ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Purva. And with that, let me see. No, there are no questions in the chat box either. And we need to wind up now. But I think we've had a very interesting discussion. Shuma, is there anything you'd like to say before we
No,
wind up? Huh?
I'm just overwhelmed, and there are so many interesting points made by the attendees, and especially what was her name, my fellow Bengali. Indrani.
Indrani,
Uh,
Indrani.
yes, so she made such an important point about the androgynous mind. I never thought
Yes,
of it like that. That I'm trying to get into the mind of the man, and that's very insightful and very,
yeah,
very, illuminating remark. So it's been an absolute pleasure to have such a thoughtful, and well-informed audience. Thank you to Manju and thank you to Mello. And I hope all of you will read the book and we can connect later. Manju will be, I think, happy to connect us also.
yes, yes,
And if you have
certainly,
any other
certainly.
questions, if I may help you with your whatever studies or etc., I'd be very happy to.
Yeah,
Thank you so
that would
much.
really be nice. That would really be nice. And I thought that this book would be just the right thing for a discussion out here. So thank you, Shuma. And maybe at some point we'll ask you to join us again. Yeah.
Yes, that would be
And
wonderful. I really, really enjoyed the session. And
so
thank you so much, Manju, for inviting me for this. Really
wonderful.
honored. Thank you.
Great. We meet from time to time, every 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes once a month. We try to meet as often as we can. So this is Meet the Writer, one of the Meet the Writer series. We also have Meet the Professor series, and very soon, I think the next Mellow Musings will be focusing on a professor, a very well-known, distinguished professor that we'll
Okay.
have a conversation with. And meanwhile, we also have, research scholars meetings. So if there are some research scholars who are doing their PhD and who would like to discuss the work that they're doing, just give your names. Renuka, where are you? Renuka? Yeah. So give
Yes,
your
ma'am.
names to Renuka. Give your names to Renuka if you're
Okay.
interested in taking part in the research scholar series, right?
Oh,
If we have 4 or 5, I think we can have a very nice 1 hour session. So this is Renuka, and you have her number. She's in the support group. So just give your name to her, and we'll put something together, right? So
oh.
with that, we need to close now. A very big thank you to Shuma. And I'm just wondering what book you'll come up with next. But enjoy this particular time, celebrating your book and all that. And well, we can all react with a clap or whatever you wish to send, huh?
I'm
And
very bad at
yeah,
sending, so all the claps, hearts, everything from my side.
yes,
I can
yes,
never
thank
find
you.
these things.
It's at the
So,
bottom. It's at the bottom. Those little icons there, react, huh? At the bottom. Never mind. We are sending them to you, huh?
okay,
Ex-
all right. All,
Excuse
all the
me,
hearts
ma'am.
from my side.
Yes, yes.
I'm verbally
So thank
sending
you,
them.
Shuma, and thank you everybody for logging in. And those who joined for the first time, please join us again. If you're not on the mailing list, just let me know, and I'll put you on the mailing list. Right? So until next time, thank you,
Thank you.
everyone, and
Bye.
bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Ex- Excuse me.
Yes, who's that? Who's that? Somebody said, excuse me. Want to say
I
something?
am Rokia from I